Welcome to Death Trip, where nightmares come alive and fear knows no limits. We journey into the darkest corners of the human soul, where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs. Here, each story is a chilling adventure that will grip your mind and twist your heart. Whether you're a thrill seeker or a believer in the unknown, Death Trip is your ultimate destination for terror. Buckle up. You're in for the ride of your life. Tonight's tale takes us deep into the heart of an ancient cursed mansion, where one man will face horrors beyond comprehension. In the stillness of the night, shadows stir, and something sinister waits in the darkness. Jake Donovan is no stranger to danger, but what he's about to uncover inside Hale Mansion will change him forever. Prepare yourself for the silent night of Jake Donovan, a chilling journey into the unknown, where survival comes at a terrifying cost. This is not just a story, it's a death trip. It was the kind of night that seemed to be stitched straight from a nightmare. Thick clouds rolled over a pale full moon, drenching the land below in cold shadows. Rain hammered the windshield of Jake Donovan's car as he drove down the narrow, winding road that led to the old mansion. The tires skidded slightly on the slick pavement, and Jake tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Jake Donovan wasn't the kind of man who spooked easily. He'd been a private investigator for over a decade, uncovering everything from infidelity to illegal dealings. But tonight felt different. This wasn't just another case. This was something much darker, something he couldn't shake. Jake had received a letter 2 weeks ago with a job offer that seemed too mysterious to ignore. A reclusive millionaire, Nathaniel Hale, had died in his mansion under peculiar circumstances. Since then, no one had been able to stay in the mansion for more than a few days without encountering unexplainable phenomena. Footsteps in empty rooms, whispers in the walls, and figures appearing in mirrors. The letter had been brief, unsigned, and offered a sum of money far too large to ignore. It simply read, "Investigate the cause of the disturbances at the Hale Mansion. You're the only one who can uncover the truth." Arrival at Hale Mansion. The mansion loomed before him as Jake turned the corner. It was an ancient Gothic monstrosity with towering spires that clawed at the sky. Its windows were dark, reflecting only the brief flashes of lightning from the storm overhead. Jake stepped out of the car, his coat billowing in the wind, and approached the massive iron gate. It creaked as he pushed it open, and his footsteps echoed across the stone pathway leading to the front door. As he stepped inside, he was immediately hit by a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. The air was thick, heavy, as if the walls themselves were watching him. Jake walked through the grand foyer, his flashlight sweeping across the floor. Dust coated every surface, and the air smelled of damp wood and mildew. The mansion had been abandoned for years, ever since Nathaniel Hale's sudden death. Yet, something still lingered here. The first sign came when Jake was halfway up the staircase. A low creaking sound made him stop in his tracks. He turned, shining the flashlight down the hall. Nothing. The creaking grew louder. It was as if someone, or something, was walking behind him. He spun around just in time to see a shadow dart out of view, disappearing into one of the side rooms. Jake's heart raced, but his rational mind took over. It could have been a trick of the light, he told himself, but deep down, he knew better. Jake made his way to the study, where Hale had been found dead. The room was filled with towering bookshelves, and in the center stood a grand oak desk. As he searched the room, Jake found old diaries, letters, and documents. One letter in particular caught his eye. It was written by Hale himself, shortly before his death. "I have made a grave mistake," the letter read. "The ritual was never meant to go this far. Now I fear I have summoned something I cannot control. It seeks retribution, and I can feel its presence growing stronger every day. Jake's stomach churned. Rituals. Summoning. The skeptic in him wanted to dismiss it, but the unsettling events unfolding around him couldn't be ignored. As the night wore on, Jake began to piece together the puzzle. Nathaniel Hale had been obsessed with the occult, collecting artifacts and books on the dark arts. In his desperation for power, he had performed a ritual to summon an ancient spirit, one that had been bound to the mansion ever since. The spirit was vengeful, angry, and trapped between worlds. Jake's investigation led him to the mansion's basement, where Hale had conducted the ritual. The air in the basement was suffocating, and the walls were lined with symbols that Jake couldn't understand. In the center of the room, a large pentagram was etched into the floor, stained with what Jake could only assume was blood. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted. Jake could see his breath fog in front of him, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. The flashlight flickered and then went out completely. A voice, low and raspy, whispered from the darkness, "You should not have come." Jake's heart pounded in his chest. He scrambled to turn the flashlight back on, but the batteries were dead. His only light now came from the occasional flash of lightning through the small barred windows. The voice came again, closer this time. "He brought me here, but you will release me." A figure materialized in front of Jake, emerging from the shadows as if it had been part of them all along. It was a man, or at least what was left of one. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken deep into his skull, and his skin was stretched tight over his bones. He wore a tattered suit, covered in dust and cobwebs. Jake backed away slowly, his mind racing for a way out. But the spirit moved faster, gliding towards him with an unnatural speed. Its bony hand reached out, and Jake felt a cold, piercing pain in his chest, as if his very soul was being gripped. "You will free me," the spirit hissed, its hollow eyes locked on Jake's. Jake managed to break free, stumbling backward up the stairs. He knew he couldn't fight the spirit head-on. It was far too powerful. But he had learned something important. The spirit was bound to the mansion by the ritual. If he could undo the ritual, he could break the curse and free the trapped souls, including his own. He raced through the mansion, gathering the materials needed to reverse the ritual. The storm outside intensified, thunder shaking the very foundation of the mansion as Jake worked. The symbols on the walls seemed to writhe, as if alive, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. With shaking hands, Jake completed the ritual, chanting the incantation from Hale's journal. The moment the final word left his lips, the mansion erupted in a deafening roar. The walls shook, the windows shattered, and a blinding light filled the room. The spirit let out a blood-curdling scream as it was torn from the mortal plane, its form dissipating into the air like smoke. The weight lifted from Jake's chest, and the oppressive darkness that had plagued the mansion for decades finally lifted. Jake collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. The mansion was still, eerily quiet. It was over. Jake left the mansion at dawn, the storm having passed, leaving the sky a soft shade of pink. He was alive, but forever changed. He had faced death itself and walked away. But he knew the horrors of that night would never leave him. The mansion might have been freed from its curse, but Jake would carry its darkness with him for the rest of his life. As he drove away, he looked back at the mansion one last time. A single figure stood in the window, watching him go. Was it a trick of the light, or had the ritual truly failed to release all the spirits? Jake didn't wait to find out. Some mysteries, he decided, were better left unsolved. A warning to future visitors. The Hale Mansion is empty now, its dark past buried within its walls. But those who know its history will tell you, not all curses are so easily broken. If you find yourself drawn to its gates, remember this: some doors are best left closed.